Hey everyone, here with the August Kitaholic Kits, and I'm getting my mixed media on. I'm loving these watercolors that we got in the mixed media kit, so I'm definitely going to have fun creating with that. So I've sprayed a little bit of water on just to activate the colors, and I'm just using my water brush here to pull some of the color out and using it like paint, just with a dry brush, a big brush, and I'm just putting it down on the paper a bit willy-nilly, just around so that the color is there but not like saturated on the paper. So then I get one of the lighter greens and do the same, just pull some color off, water it down with a little bit of water from the water brush, and I'm going to use the same brush just to put it on and fill up the page in terms of not like edge to edge fill up, but just cover left to right enough to see the color, especially if we put on some extra goodies on top of the page in terms of photo and embellishments. So just some quick little splatters, nothing too much in terms of splatters, but just a little bit. And again with the darker color, and this time I'm going to use my pipette and I'm sucking up the color, which is a little bit tricky in this area, but it's doable. And I'm just, I pull my pipe out, and as I go down towards the paper, I spurt it out. And so that motion makes bigger spurts. So if you want to have a little play with that. Now I use this stamp that I've pulled out of my stash, and if I did stamp off a bit more of the color, I would be able to get actual shape of the stamp. But I actually find the way that this worked was really cool, so I continue doing it. Because the stamp is, like you can see, it's all those bricks. It has a bit of up and down where the color can join, and then that way that's what imprints onto the paper, rather than you could definitely do the packaging technique, but I like the fact that it's a little bit more random but up and down and spurty kind of thing. So I've got these art foamies, and again, if you watched my unboxing video, you'll see, not my unboxing video, sorry, my monthly prep video, you'll see why I pulled out my art foamies. I've never used them before, and I was so excited to use them, and they are so fun. It's just cool. They are basically just foam stamps, but they have all different sizes and patterns and whatnot, and I have a full drawer, and I should actually use them a lot more. Anyway, moving along, I've pulled out the palette of colour, and I'm just wetting it and pushing it down so that I get a fair bit of the stronger colour, so that I don't water it down too much. And then I'm adding white acrylic paint, and I love the way it changed the colour up really so nicely. So obviously don't water the colour down too much when you're doing this, when you're adding acrylic paint, because it'll just make the acrylic paint too watery, unless you want it for like ink splatters. But you have to be careful obviously with the amount of colour that you want as well. If you're watering it down too much, the pigment of the colour won't be too strong. Now I pulled out some of the blue, and I'm just mixing that in with that acrylic not lime green, but the acrylic green that I made, and using the art foamy that I used before. But this time I'm using just a lid of my ink mist and adding some circles to the page, just in some random spots. So you definitely don't have to buy all the most fandangle stamps and art foamies and all those kind of mixed media stuff. There's things around that you can use just like this, which is the lid of an ink mist, just easy to clean and to go along. So you can see this is what the art foamy looks like. Just tidying all that up. It's quite easy. I really love these mats from IKEA. It's just one of the desk mats, and I like the black just because it doesn't show up all the colour like the white does. Anyway, so pulling out the acrylic paint, just adding some water. I'm just going to add some ink splatters to the page, and my next thing's going to be that I get out an old loyalty card and I just use the edge to add some lines. So I rub the edge of the card in the paint and then stamp it onto the layout as such. So it's quite easy and quite effective. Something I've done in a couple of videos before, and quite a few layouts. It's just cool. It's nice. I did one time, I think I just put black down, or did I put a colour of green, and then I did black lines using the card. It was quite striking, quite bold. But I'm loving, look how cool this mixed media now looks with all these layers to it. I'm really loving this month and creating mixed media backgrounds that are, they're easy. You've seen how quick it was and how easy it was to do. But because you're doing layer upon layer, it makes it look a bit more challenging and makes it look really like you've spent all day doing it. And ain't got no time to do all day, that's for sure. So, fussy cut out this row of buildings. I really thought that might be a nice little a touch and ephemera kind of piece. And I'm loving this colour here, matches really nicely. And the words are just always nice to have a text. So, ripping the page because ripped and mixed media go together for myself. And I'm just liking those layers already. I don't even need a photo. Look how nice it's looking already. It's really cool. Obviously I'm going to add a photo. So it's just that scrap piece and the blue's really nice. So just adding that on. And I wonder if I want to put this blue on, but realize I'd be covering up too much of the mixed media. So instead I just leave it and just use that little scrap, which was a perfect size to see it on the top and bottom. And just like it was made purposely for it. I'm going to cut out this cutter part. And then I'm going to... Here's my photos of my two boys playing trains when I first started family daycare, which I'm not doing at the moment. But anytime I'd get some new toys, the boys would have to test them out and make sure that it worked really well. And we'd spend the weekend usually playing with it before the children came back on the Monday. So I pulled out a doily from the kit, and then also this is packaging. So you'll see when I turn it over after sticking this photo down that it's the ephemera packaging, and because it's got a nice blue pattern on it, it's always really nice to keep packaging when it has something going on. If it's just plain white, then you could keep it for scratch paper if you wanted to stamp or write or something. But a lot of packaging, or not a lot, maybe a fair bit I guess, has some kind of pattern or something really fun on it that you could fussy cut and have fun that way. Unfortunately, I forgot I had double-sided tape on it and my doily got stuck, but it's alright because I can just hide that little part that ripped underneath the paper layers. And I changed, because I found that packaging piece, I did move that random scrap of stripy blue paper to the front of the green text paper. So as I'm putting layers together, sometimes they move around and sometimes they just stay exactly the way they were. So I've stuck on the doily and I'm just going to stick it all to the mixed media background. And before I do that, I'm just going to distress the edge of this paper. I really am loving distressed edges, ripped edges and mixed media. And I could definitely have got out my paper distresser tool, but of course I was holding it already with tape on it and didn't want to muck around with that and just use my scissors. So I'm going to use some double-sided tape just to put up these houses, this row of buildings. It's really fun, really cool pattern of them overlaying. It's like they've been screen printed one over top of each other, each colour. On it goes, just some double-sided foam, because it is, I've put one strip down the bottom where all the bulk of the houses, and then those bigger houses I've put a couple of pieces. So, ta-da! Just add a title and you could be done, that's for sure. I cut the ephemera piece down because it wasn't working for me the way it was sitting that way really big now that I've put things together. So don't be afraid to use your ephemera in different ways than what they're designed for. If it means you're using your ephemera, then that's all that really matters. And make sure that we're not hoarding everything, especially when we get all these awesome Kitaholic kits each month. We don't want to just have stacks and stacks of collections and kits. We'd rather use them all up and have fun. So you can see here, when I do my unboxing, I always talk about cut the edge of my thickers, and you can see how easy it is that I just put my hand in and I pull out each letter and I just put it straight on the layout. It makes it quite easy rather than undoing the bottom and sliding out the stickers, finding the letters and then sliding them in and dealing with all that sticky edge or anything like that. I find it really fun and really easy just to use the cut edge down the side. So I'm going to add some sticker words, some tiny words. This one's from a 12 by 12 sticker sheet that I've pulled out of my stash to hopefully use as an addition in my kit, and that's part of my monthly prep to pull out some stash items from my mixed media as well as from my stash and from previous past kits. So definitely check out that video on my channel if you want to understand why I've got some of these extras. Adding some of the stickers, the stars and the hearts, and then also some enamel dots just to make sure I've got some sprinkle goodness happening. And here I keep picking it up and looking at it. It needs something, I'm missing something, and I'm thinking this whole time that it's missing something, and it's not till the end or the very last thing I do to it that actually is what I was probably is why I was feeling like it was finished or unfinished back here, but I don't realize till the end what the answer is. So I pulled out a blue glittery kind of gel pen. Just going to add my journaling on using that label that I fussy cut from the printables, and I've layered that under all the jagged ripped edges. That way it's not hiding all that cool ripped edgeness. So finding some more ephemera pieces. Got this circle heart, this circle with a heart in it, and then this blue banner with a heart on it, and I end up moving some of these stickers so that it can layer next to that label, and it just looks like it's sticking out from under the ripped edges of paper, just the way it should be. And you can see really quick, easy to cut up these hearts. Now I staple this one onto the left because it's close to the edge I can. The blue one on the right is not close to the edge, so what I do in a second is I pick it up and I just staple it by itself, and then I stick it on so that the staple's between this double-sided tape and the paper. That way you get that look of a stapled item without it being stapled because it's in the middle and you staple it doesn't reach. Now I love this title, and if I'd seen it earlier perhaps I would have used it just exclusively, but I love the fact that it's like a double title. I've got this one that sits up the top here and it kind of frames the photo and brings the ephemera around, and also that title with the thick as fun at home. So adding on some more enamel dots, just bringing that title down to the buildings, and that way it's connected. And then again checking through my puffy stickers that I pulled out of my stash to make sure if there's any that I would like to use, and just gluing them down because they've lost most of their stickiness and they're not going to stay, and just making sure that everything's where I want it to be. And here's where I realized what I needed to do. So I pulled out my Distress Oxide that we've got in our previous kits, and I just blew up the edges, and I do it on an angle so that you can see just the edges, but then I also go a little bit more closer to the front and tap it on the bottom of the layout so that there's some distressed look around the edge of the layout. It's a bit tricky to get a nice photo with the edges of the layout, but you can see when I was creating it how cool it looked. Anyway, here's a close-ups of the layout, and I hope you feel inspired to get your mixed media craziness on. Bye guys, see you next time.